Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Hello and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. It is good to be back again. It is review number 36, part 3 of my mini series about 3 Irish whiskies which I think require attention, as in you should check these out basically for one reason or another. And good boys and girls will know that if you looked at the title of this, I'm looking at this Powers John's Lane, the 12-year-old. Sorry, I forgot to mention that chap at the start who seemed to be enjoying himself quite a lot is a man called Whiskey Jason. If you're not aware of him, we will take a further look at Whiskey Jason later on if you hang around. So, yes, Powers 12-year-old single pot still called John's Lane. We know it as John's Lane. John's Lane it's basically the title's a tribute to the original site of the Powers Distillery in Dublin when it was operating. Now made in the Middleton Distillery in Cork. It is a single pot still, bottled at 46%. It is non-chill filtered. They don't mention colour, so we take it for granted that there is colour. Why do I think this should be brought to your attention? What is it about this whiskey that has given me cause to review it in this series? Well, for the money, and I paid £40, I believe, for this a while back. It usually sits around the £40 to £50 mark. For the money, this, in my opinion, is one of the best Irish whiskies on the market. For the money. Certainly single pot stills. Because, and this is a bit of a spoiler, it's just good stuff. It is a good quality whiskey. It is thick, unctuous, fruit cakey stuff. I'll get to that in a moment. Maturation is mainly second and third fill bourbon casks, but a year of it spends, or a year approximately, the portion of it is in Oloroso sherry butts. So there's a bit of a mixture going on. That sherry influence is there in the background, but so we'll go get straight into the nose in this. Thick. It's thick even to look at, but it even smells thick. And I mentioned it in my yellow spot review about rum and raisin, and I get it here again. Rum and raisin, dark chocolate. It's like this is almost like a fruit and nut bar. If it was dark chocolate with fruit and nut in it, very much so. There's a slight bitter tang in there, like tobacco. Maybe even pipe tobacco. But that fruit cakiness is, whoa, is all over this. And to say fruit cake or chocolate and fruit. There's even a slight acetone note, which could be your bourbon cask influence in there. Beautiful nose, really, really thick and rich. And those palate, those flavors just emblazoned themselves all over the palate. Then there's a sweet and sour delivery. It's really rich, really creamy. There's honey there, but there's a sweetness. It's not just like a sweet honey, it's more like a syrup, and that thickness, I think, even almost tells the brain or tells your senses there's something thick and syrupy going on here. Some slight vanilla and oak. Once again on the palate, which is probably yet again your cask influence. But there's also spice, there's also pepper, cinnamon, there's a cinnamony and a nutmeg thing going on. Finish is lengthy. I wouldn't say it's long, probably medium to long, but it hangs around. It's quite dry. It's quite dry finish, but it's a long, lingery finish. It leaves its mark and stays there, and still holds memories of that fruitcake. I'm going to add water. As I said, 46%. There's not a lot left in my glass here, but I'm going to add probably about a quarter to half a teaspoonful in there, because it can take it. And it does make this something different. That chocolate stops being as bitter. When I said earlier it was like dark chocolate, where you would get a bitterness off a dark chocolate, that bitterness mellows out with water to make it more like a milky chocolate, to make it more like a fruit and nut chocolate bar. Rich fruit. Then there's other fruit there. There's dried, like a dried apricot, plums maybe, mixed peel, which I suppose a lot of, yet again, what you would find in a fruit cake. And the vanilla then starts to appear in the nose, or even I've said a burnt vanilla like creme brulee. There is a mintiness there, but sometimes I find that mintiness is maybe just ethanol burn. It's maybe just a hint of that, which is hanging over the top of the liquid itself. Palate softens. Becomes more peppery. You can feel the definite thinning. It's not as thick as before I added the water, but it does become slightly more peppery, but still a very full flavour. And one I find reminiscent of chocolate ice cream, strangely, because it starts at the back of the palate, that flavour. That's where that chocolate ice cream sensation starts to come in. But then as it goes into the finish, it's there. It's definitely there. Still a slight bitterness in the finish, which I find with Powers whiskey. Very slight here. The gold label, I find a bitterness in the finish, which I find slightly off-putting. But here, it's here. There is a slight bitterness, but it's not off-putting here at all. It's not an unpleasant bitterness. It is, yet again, as I said a moment ago, there's a chocolate ice cream thing, and I find even a slight bitter edge with chocolate ice cream and the memory of it in your in a finish, and it's here, but it's lovely. It really is. It's so creamy, and you're just left with that lovely lingering, drying, as I said, slightly bitter but chocolatey ice cream, even rum and raisin ice cream. Very, very good. Yeah, as I said, for the money. To me, one of the, if not the best Irish whiskies on the market. I said a couple of reviews ago about yellow spot, about how much I like yellow spot, and I do like yellow spot. And this to me is in the same playing field as the yellow spot. Now, okay, the yellow spot has that Malaga influence, which changes things a little, but in the league of quality and depth and oomph, this is certainly in the same ballpark as yellow spot. But it's not half the price, but you're looking at something here, as I say, you'll get for 40 to 50 pounds, whereas your yellow spot 60 to 70 pounds. So it's, to me, almost black and white. I would have this. This will always be in my collection. And I'm going to compare it again. Now, I know I actually used this to compare the yellow spot with. As always, I haven't actually tried this comparison until now. But the reason why I've gone back to the Redbreast is it's made in the Middleton distillery, as is the Powers. It's a 12-year-old, as is the Powers. It is a single pot still, as is this. Okay, the maturation varies slightly, but you're looking to me, and also I would suggest usually in and around the same price range. So you're looking on paper at two whiskies here, which should be fairly similar. I know a lot of people will have this. A lot of people like this, but maybe haven't just the same amount of people have had this. Okay, this is 40%, but I often find with the Redbreast 12 that it plays higher than 40%. It's a fine example of a whiskey that to me, an Irish whiskey, there's an awful lot balled at 40% and would probably be better for being balled at a higher percent. But this one, I think they get away with a 40%er. There's a slight varnish on the nose of the Redbreast, a varnishy, which I'd never noticed really before, but then I'm coming off this, and the vanilla plays into both. An awful lot of ex-bourbon maturation in play here as well. There are similarities in the nose. The Powers is sweeter. There's more going on. Definitely more going on. So if you've had this, but not this, and you want more for much the same money, certainly consider this one. Yeah, this lies a little flat compared to this. Now I know I've added water here, but yep, that's Redbreast. That is that fruit cake yet again. It's there. Vanilla flavors are there. There are similarities, quite a few similarities, but yeah. When you follow this up with this, even without cleansing your palate, you are tasting two totally different whiskies. This is thick, rich, it sticks, it lingers, it holds something with every stage. The nose brings something, the palate brings something, the finish brings something, and they all bring something different. And they all add to each other and all fire off sparks. Brilliant, Redbreast 12, no denying that it's a great whiskey, but it just, it sort of remains itself the whole way through. It smells good, tastes good, finishes good, but it's quite a level game, this goes like that. So there you have it. What I would do, what I would recommend, is get yourself a bottle of Powers John's Lane. It is very, very, very good stuff, in my opinion, for the money. That's that review wrapped up. Time to share the love again. And as I said earlier, you seen him at the start. He's a man, an American man living in Germany, reviewing exotic and rare whiskies. And he is, of course, Whiskey Jason. Yes, he is. Jason is one of those reviewers, he's one of those whiskey people that, for me, if you're new, right, let me break this down. If you're new to whiskey, if you're starting your journey, as we call it, you start obviously here. You start with a whiskey. You start you gain a love for the stuff. You gain respect for the stuff. You take your baby steps and you get to know a whiskey. You get to know what you like. You get to, and as when I say you get to know what you like, you get to know, I mean, you could be pretty far down your journey already, quite a bit along the road. At that point, you know, you could say to yourself, you could start drinking whiskey and go, oh, I love Irish whiskey. I'll just stick with Irish whiskey, shall I? And then you move along and you discover that, oh, some other good ones out there, and this goes on. And you could be, you know, you could be years into your journey before you start to realize this sort of thing. Then you get to a point, and this is the point, I am a whiskey novice. There's no denying that. The name's not just a tagline. It's not just a handle. It's because I'm a whiskey novice that I call myself a whiskey novice. But I would say now in my journey, I'm at the point where I've got to know what I like. I'm still discovering great whiskies that are being introduced to me. But I've sort of got to know where I currently lie, what I currently like. Then you get to the point where you start to go, right, well, if this is what I like, this is the distillery this came from. So let's start and look at the distillery. Then you start and look at other distilleries. Then you progress and you progress and you get higher and higher. And you, not only then do you know the distillery, you get to know the history of the distillery. You start to look at other distilleries that are similar, etc., etc. Now, I'm nowhere close to this point yet. Then you get to the point where you start to know those behind the distillery. You start to know the people, you know the master distillers, you know the person who's responsible for making that whiskey that you love. You know where they came from, you know where they trained, you know where they're going next. And it's just a world of knowledge required to hold all that. And the point that I'm getting to is, this is Jason for me. This is Jason, this is Roy Aquaviti, this is Greg's Whiskey Guide, this is Ralphie, and that list of names goes on. And this is why I do my Share the Love feature, because if you are new to whiskey, you're starting to learn this path, you're getting these, listen to guys like this, because they know what they're talking about, and they make life an awful lot easier for people like me, because when you start to look for that information, when you start to gather that information and pull it together, you're doing your research. Who do I look to? I look to guys like Jason, because they know what they're talking about. They are the brains in this community that we all tend to me, and the guys like Jason, the Gregoires, the Roy Duffs, you know, they turn to each other for this information as well, and I just love that. So if you haven't checked out Whiskey Jason's stuff, he's reviewing rare whiskies, and they are rare. You're talking your things that you'll maybe only get in travel retail. You'll only get in a certain shop in a certain part of the world. So he's reviewing these whiskies that we can't necessarily get to, but I and an awful lot of other people want to know what they're like. He's your man. So yes, check out Whiskey Jason, please. Very, very nice guy, great guy, and very, very good at what he does. That's about it. I'll just say before I go to my patrons, once again, thank you very, very much. The support means everything to me. And as I said before, if you want to join in, the link is in the description below. And I would really, really appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody watching my videos. I appreciate the comments. And it's great to have you here. I'm going to wrap this and say that's that. That is the end of my very brief series looking at 3 Irish whiskies that require your attention. Thank you for your attention there. Here's to the next time. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.